Hey guys, so in this example what I wanted to go over was how to find the solutions to problems number 2 and 4 on the study guide. And in problem number 2 we have a rainstorm here that lasts for 3 hours and produces 2.17 inches of rain, and it requires about 1,220 drops of rain to produce an inch of rain. And ultimately what we need to do is figure out how many raindrops fell in a given minute. So what this basically means is that we're going to end up with some kind of a quantity that's going to look like raindrops that fell within a given minute. Well, if we start with the known quantities that we have, we know that there's 2.17 inches of rain. And we know that that happened in a certain amount of time, and the certain amount of time that that happened in was hours. Well, knowing what we need to end up with in the bottom unit right here is minutes. So the first thing I'm going to focus on is getting these hours to change into minutes. So knowing that we have hours right here in the bottom, we're going to want hours in the top or the numerator, and we're going to drop down from hours into minutes right here in the bottom, which when this happens, we'll see that ultimately these hours units right here will cancel out with these hours units right here. But then the question is how many hours are in a minute or how many minutes are in an hour? Well, I know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So that means that ultimately these hour units are going to cross out and we're left with minutes. Now what we need to do is worry about getting these inches right here that are in the numerator to convert over into drops. Well, looking in the problem here, I see that it requires about 1,220 drops of rain to produce 1 inch of rain. So looking at what that's going to do is that's going to give me another conversion section to this dimensional analysis, and I want to go out of inches. Well, currently inches are in the numerator, so I'm going to have to put inches here in the denominator, and what I'm going to want to end up in is drops. And when I look at my conversion factor here, I know that there's approximately 1,220 drops in 1 single inch, and we're going to see that the drops will cancel, or excuse me, not that the drops will cancel out, but that the inches will actually cancel out like this. So on our calculator, what we're going to do is just very quickly do 2.17 times 1,220 divided by 3 divided by 60. And when we do that, we get approximately 14.707 repeating drops per inch, or excuse me, per minute. And when we look at that and actually put that into a more reasonable answer, we'd say that there's roughly about 14.7 or 15 drops. So you could say 15.7 drops, you could also, or 14.7 drops per minute. You could also certainly say that that's almost close to 15 drops per minute. And so anything that's within this general area right here would be an acceptable answer for problem number 2. Now, looking at problem number 4, here they give us the formula for finding the average of 8 exams in a given period. And if you notice, they actually say we're E10. Originally, when we wrote this formula, there wasn't enough room to fit all 10 exams, and so I just shortened it to 8. So ignore this typo that we have right here with E10 for a moment and just say where it says E1 through E10 are individual exams that are measured on a 0 to 100 points scale. Well, that immediately tells me that all of these exams, E1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, are measured using points. And it wants to know what unit would be needed to discuss this problem. Well, the first thing that we know is that every exams are measured using a unit, and they're measured using points. Well, the other thing that we needed to figure out for this problem is what this quantity 8 is really representing, and what we know is that there were 8 exams in all. So when we use this formula up here, we know that points plus points plus points plus points plus points is just going to come out to be points. So looking at what this will look like is we will have points as a unit divided by exams. And when we look at what that mathematically will yield to us when we do this as a quantity calculation, we would get some type of a quantity number, which will be the question mark right here, because we don't know what that number is, but it would come out to be points per exam. Because remember, whenever you do an average, it's always averaging across a single exam, but then doing it over many multiples of those exams. So basically we'll be getting some kind of a unit that'll look like this many points per exam. So in terms of what units would be needed, we need to talk about the units of exams and the units of points, and which unit would the quantity, or would each quantity in the formula use. Remember, these numerators up here would be measured in points. This 8 right here would be 8 exams for a total average unit of points per exam. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in class, and I look forward to seeing you guys.